Okay, well, welcome to Friday After Class. Josh, thank you so much for joining us. We love having these conversations to get to know faculty a little bit better at the college and to talk about some of the cool things you're doing in your classes and, give you something that you can use maybe with your students down the road too.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about maybe just the background before we get into the questions? So the questions we have some fun questions in the mix, which we always like to do. And then we're going to ask about the quality course design review process, which you went through recently. So we've got some questions about that. But before we get to the icebreaker question, do you want to talk a little bit about your background, history, biography, what you teach, that kind of thing?
Yeah, sure. So I teach communication courses. So public speaking, composition one. I also teach some college experience classes. And I do that both online and at the Calmer campus, as well as traveling to Olwine and Postville to teach concurrent high school classes as well.
Always a fun environment. Let's jump into the fun icebreaker question. This is fun. If you were a student again, Josh, what class would you take for fun?
Yeah, so I actually recently met with Gary Cross, who does computer science classes at the Calmer campus, and he was showing me around the classroom and some different tools that they had. And I really didn't know anything about computer science prior to talking with him, so it was really interesting to see all that they do. So I think if I was a student again, I'd want to take a class with him and learn more about how we're even able to have this conversation online. I think it's, I don't know, so fascinating.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Should we jump into some of the quality course review questions, Shannon?
Yeah, sure. So can you start to just tell us a little bit about how you learned about the quality review process and kind of how it got initiated for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I found out because Shannon, you sent an email out during the spring semester asking if anyone needed help with preparing for their summer classes. And I saw that quality course design was an option. And I'm always looking to improve my classes. So I thought the summer would be a perfect time to get that review done so that when I was preparing for the fall, I'd be able to have the time to kind of go through everything and make the changes I needed for those classes.
Awesome. So the first tip there is read your emails.
I've got a quick follow-up question. The second question we have on here is why did you request a course review, which I think you answered. But was there any sort of like trepidation? Like I can imagine, and both Shannon and I teach too, but like the opening up to other perspectives is sort of potentially risky, right? Especially if the help that someone thinks they're giving you is not helpful. It's just another problem to deal with, managing this person's perceptions or feelings or over-explaining something. So was there any kind of moment of that kind of feeling? And if so, how'd you handle it?
Yeah, I think so. I think though, because I'm still a new faculty member, I just started here in 2022. I still feel like I am learning new things. So I figured that even if I did really poorly on my report, that I, have the excuse that I'm new and can make the changes that I need to kind of get back on track. So yeah, I think being new was a big part of helping me be open to new things. And I went to a conference a couple years ago as well that made me just more interested in professional development and trying to be the best teacher that I can be. And especially when it comes to online Brightspace design, I think that's a space where, while maybe I feel good about my teaching and my pedagogy, that my course design specifically is something that I could always improve upon. So
sure.
Yeah.
What conference was that you went to?
TICA. I forget what it stands for, honestly, but I know that's the abbreviation.
Well, you're the kind of person who's learning about computer science for fun on the side and seeing what other instructors are doing. Then you're clearly an open person to bring in new ideas and stuff. Yeah, that's great.
All right. So what did you do with the results of your review?
Yeah, so I pretty much just went down the list on, looking at where I was developing and could be more proficient, and just started making those changes. A lot of them had to do with accessibility and like my module descriptions. So I pretty much redid all of my module descriptions based on the feedback. And I think another big problem is that I want my students to go to content and then access my course that way. But from my own experience and from Shannon, what you shared, a lot of them do tend to go to more tools and then assignments to navigate homework assignments. And so I had really struggled with students doing that in the past and them being really confused and me being really frustrated. So your advice to just make the more assignments area more easily accessible was really helpful in this semester. I know for a fact that my students still went to more tools and assignments to access the course, but they didn't have any confusion that they had in the past. So that was really nice.
Good.
That's awesome. Is there anything else you can think of that, like if another faculty member watches this, that you would want them to know about your experience with course reviews?
Yeah, I think it's helpful not only noticing like where you can improve, but also the strengths that you already have in your courses as well. And again, being a new faculty member, that's something that I really appreciate, of just knowing what I'm doing well too. So just know that it's not just things that you're doing wrong, but also the strengths that you already have. And I think that can be really validating and helpful to kind of motivate you to push through the things that, you know, do need to be fixed.
I love that you observe that, because I'm sure you have the same experience, Shannon. Shannon and I do a lot of these course reviews. We enjoy it. It makes us better teachers in the same way that like helping people with the writing, I know, makes me a better writer. But I really enjoy finding those opportunities to like add specific comments about a specific thing that I think is awesome. Like I relish opportunities to say, that's awesome. Tell everyone in the world about that you're doing that, which is a perfect segue to the next question. Do you want to take it, Shannon?
No, go for it.
Okay. What's the very best thing you do in your classroom? Josh, this could be online, face-to-face, hybrid. You could talk about all of these contexts if you want to. Toot your own horn. What do you do that's awesome?
Yeah, I think just mostly just trying to create a welcoming and inclusive environment. I do have a lot of the like classes that students take when they're first entering NICC, like the required courses. And so I find that a lot of students, whether they're high school students taking a college class for the first time, or community college students either entering college for the first time from high school, or students who have been in the workforce for a while now coming back to school, I think either way, there still can be a lot of anxiety and just students feeling unsure of themselves. So really creating that welcoming and friendly environment where students can feel just really supportive and know that if they do make mistakes, that that's okay. And that's what college is for, to make those mistakes in the class, I think can be really helpful. So I do a lot of attendance questions. So I'll just ask kind of like a question of the day that students will answer that really helps build a good environment and kind of get the class rolling. So I really like that part of my class. And then across all of my courses, whether it be public speaking, composition, or college experience, I tend to do a lot of self-reflective activities to kind of get students thinking about their own performance in the class. And I really think that helps build their own confidence to be able to, see for themselves that they're doing a good job, or understand like how they got the grade that they got. And I think critical thinking as well. I think self-reflection is a great tool that I continue to use in my everyday life, and I hope I can foster that in students as well.
When you're talking about the reflective piece, I'm thinking about the ways in which I've sort of observed my own students, particularly like dual credit high school students, kind of living in an illusion in an online class of I can make this work, I'm doing okay. And where I sort of like failed to challenge that was a missed opportunity, and now I'm dealing with it at the end of the semester. So instantly what you said resonated with the thing I can do better, particularly in online settings where I've struggled personally. I'm sure lots of folks struggle with that, making as welcoming environment like you're describing in that online space, and getting to know your students as well in an online space is a challenge. Anything in particular you do in that online space? What does that reflection look like for online or hybrid students?
Yeah, for online, I pretty much just have a reflection after every speech. So they'll reflect about, how each speech went. And I think especially, since we're not in person together watching, I mean, I do have peer evaluations, but it's just, different in online space, of course. Them being able to just kind of see and reflect on how their speech went from their own perspective, rather than me telling them and like ascribing like an interpretation of their speech, is really important for, that critical thinking piece as well, because I want them not only to be good speakers, but also good audience members as well. And so if they could look at their own speech and understand their own strengths and areas for improvement, I just think that helps them engage more with the course and be more of like a critical audience member too.
And they want to do it. I can see it. I'm sure we see it in different places. In the assignment tool in Brightspace, right, there's a comments field. The students will want to kind of contextualize, add details. That impulse to be reflective is there, but sometimes if we don't provide it, they lose out. So I'm glad you're providing it. Awesome. I feel like I'm dominating this conversation, Shane. You better jump in. Otherwise,
Well,
I'll keep asking you,
I
Josh.
wanted to. I just wanted to interject a quick question. What is your educational background?
Yeah, so I went to college to get my undergraduate degree at Ball State University. I majored in communication and political science. And then I went to Syracuse University for my master's degree, and that was in communication and rhetorical studies.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to ask: do you teach college experience online at all, or is it all face to face?
I do teach college experience online, yeah. And your course has been super, super helpful as I've tried to navigate the online setting of college experience. Because, yeah, I thought it was hard at first to kind of get that, I don't know, the in-person feel. I feel like I really like teaching in-person college experience, and it's hard to replicate that online.
Yeah.
But I think the way that you structured your course was really great. And honestly, I want to take what you've done online and incorporate that into my in-person course too. I just think the structure and the flow of it is really great.
I was actually going to ask you if you have any, if there's anything that you do in your online college experience that you feel like helps get buy-in from the students onto the value of the course, because that's something that I think we all struggle with college experience, and it's a little bit easier in person because you can kind of constantly remind them about how, you know, what we're covering applies to their regular lives and their professional lives and not just college. But that's even harder to do online. So do you have any insight as to how to do that in an online?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that just kind of the way the assignments are structured, especially the finance unit, and I think the vision board also does this. I've actually had a lot of online students themselves just offer freely their own reflections about how helpful the class was for them, especially the way in which the assignments are connected. They're able to kind of see the ways in which the skills build onto each other. And I think especially with the vision board being the last assignment in that online class, it helps them understand the ways in which they've already improved throughout the course of the semester from the content that they were taught, as well as the ways in which they wanted to incorporate the lessons that were learned in that class, but maybe weren't able to totally get there, but now have the goals to incorporate that like next semester or in their future. So yeah, I really, really like the vision board project and how that just really ties everything together and also set them up for incorporating those lessons into, you know, next semester or their future.
Yeah. One thing that I have started doing is asking in the last, and this would work in any course really, in the last discussion of the class, I asked them to give feedback and advice to the next group of students. And then I ask them if they are willing to share that video to put permission in the post. And so then I take a couple of those videos and I try to get a variety of types of students in there. And I actually post them in an announcement in the beginning of the next semester so that students can hear from actual other students who thought the class was useful. You know, that I'm trying to kind of get through that negative.
Well, they made it through, right?
Attitude that some of them come in
right.
with. Yeah.
Right.
I really like that idea. I think that'll be really good, especially at least in my in-person class. I have a lot of John Deere technical students who you know, a lot of them like the hands-on work. They don't like the fact that they have to be in a classroom again. So I have a lot of resistance at the beginning of the semester, but towards the end, I do get students who reflect that it was a really helpful class. So I think to see their peers already say that would be super helpful. So I really like that idea.
Yeah.
So cool. Nice.
All right. So I think, is it time for a fun question?
Yeah. Are we? Yes. Yep. Let's go fun.
Okay. Well, okay. So this one, maybe this is like on the way to fun. In what ways do you think this generation of students is different or the same from previous generations?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I'm a millennial, and I think I have a lot of like Gen Z students. So I think we're kind of like similar to each other in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to technology, and wanting like, yeah, just real world application of what they're learning about, how they can like actually take action on what they're learning immediately. As well as like the mental health piece. I know that mental health started to become like more destigmatized in my generation, but I think it's even more open and talked about in this new generation. But what I see is really different is I just think that While I felt really overwhelmed when I was in school of balancing work and studies and extracurriculars, I see that even more put onto this new generation, especially work and sports. I find that those two tend to be the most difficult for my students to balance. I just think a lot is asked from this new generation, and there's like just a lot piling up on them that I find that they struggle to navigate. And so, yeah, I think just being understanding and helpful in that way can make a difference. Because yeah, I think there's just a lot on their plate. I feel sorry for a lot of them.
Yeah, it's
Josh, if you're a millennial, I'm a boomer. I don't know your ages. Oh man, I gotta reassess. I must be Gen X then. Oh man.
It's interesting because I'm right on the cusp of Gen X and millennial, and I feel like I've got those two sides of my brain. And sometimes when a student comes to me with like an excuse as to why they didn't turn something in, the Gen X side really wants to just say, well, it's too bad. You know the deadline. You know, you have to learn to be good at life. And then the millennial side is like, well, maybe we should have a little bit of empathy and understand that people have things going on. So it's kind of like this constant battle in my own brain.
That's awesome. Let's do fun. More fun? Ready for more fun?
Go for it. You got one?
I'm doing the pineapple on pizza because Shannon's never even eaten pineapple on pizza. She told me yesterday. We had all sorts of inventive reasons for why it was not good, even though she'd never tried it. So, Josh, pineapple on pizza, yes or no? Explain, defend.
Yeah, I'm a defender. I love pineapple on pizza. I think it's really good. I just love a mix of like sweet and savory, so that just really hits it for me. Especially, the Hawaiian pizza with some ham on there, get that salty sweet combo. I think it's really great. I'll defend it forever. So I think you should try it. Give it a shot.
Tell me about the sauce pineapple combo.
That's what weirds me out. The tomato sauce and
the two fruits complement each other on that
pizza.
pizza.
It's like too much acid.
That's real. That's real. As I get older and have acid reflux, I do have to watch out for it. But
okay, you're a millennial. Got it.
If I have some heartburn medicine on the sideline for me, I think I can make it through, and the taste is worth it personally. So, I'd say go for it.
I was unconvinced by Jordan yesterday, but you might have convinced me to try it. Maybe. I was thinking about warm pineapple though, that I also don't love.
Cool.
I don't know. It does it for me. I think it tastes good.
Okay, maybe I'll try it. I'll report back. Okay, how about this? If you could instantly master one skill, any skill at all, what would it be?
100% the ability to be fluent, especially in Spanish. I actually have a Duolingo streak over 700, which I'm super proud of. And I've taken Spanish classes since I was in high school, but I still don't feel very fluent in it. I can make my way through a conversation, but I think the ability to just be very confident and fluent would be amazing. And if I could take it a step further, I know that some people are like polyglots and they have the ability to like pick up on new languages like really quickly. I do not have that skill, but it would be amazing if I could have it. So that would definitely be what my skill would be.
Have you traveled to a Spanish-speaking country at all?
I have actually. So my partner Marianne has family in Colombia, so we've traveled down there twice so far. And yeah, it was a really great experience. And I was honestly kind of impressed with myself. I think I knew more than I thought that I would. So I was able to pick up on a lot of it. I think speaking is where I had the most difficulty, but listening and writing, I think I'm a little bit more proficient at.
That makes sense. I feel like when you're listening, you're kind of just you only have to process one thing at a time. Whereas when you're trying to speak it, you're like, you have to process and translate and do all of that.
Exactly.
And try to do it quickly enough to actually continue a conversation.
Yeah, there's the get a degree that helps you think through concepts as a native speaker. Because I think, that's my problem is I try to translate it back into English and then think in English to Spanish. But I really want to try to think as how a native speaker thinks and just stay in that Spanish area. But it's really hard to do. It's very difficult.
Different ways of thinking. You should get the credits and start teaching at NSC. That'd be so great. I'm sure we need it.
Yeah, I actually do have my TEFL certification. So if there's any opportunities, I'd love to do that.
That's interesting. That's cool. Nice.
Any final questions, Jordan? What do you think?
No. Thank you for talking about the quality course design review process and your experience with it. Like we've had a growing number of folks go through it, but we want to spread the word about how useful we think it could be. and how we can be helpful as a part of that process to help make those changes then too and carry forward. So
no, absolutely,
that kind of quality.
Yeah, and if I could just throw one last comment on there, I think another really useful part that I found about it is like the links that are in the Excel sheet to go to the Google site about it.
Mm-hmm.
I really like I saw that you guys have like a little podcast kind of conversation at the top, which I really liked. And then just like the checklist below. I didn't realize a lot of the competencies were linked to like the Department of Education requirements and things like that. So that was really helpful for me to understand. Obviously I know all this stuff is important, but really, the weight of it, I think, is important too. And that Google site, I think, is just very clear and lays everything out really well. So yeah, I think even if faculty don't get a full review, just navigating that website, I think could maybe be a helpful first step in implementing, some changes or seeing what the requirements are.
You said everything we wanted you to say, and your check is in the mail. The $100 check that we're sending you. Sending it right now. Okay, thank you.
Amazing. I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, one last just piece of information I want to throw out there is that we do have the rubric on the website, and faculty can go in and do a review of their own courses if they want to. So they don't have to involve us if they don't want to, or they could ask a colleague to look at their courses for them, or their dean, or anybody can use the rubric. So while we like to be able to do reviews for people, it certainly can be done by anyone.
That colleague relationship, we imagined when we kind of built the document that I think there's multiple tabs or pages of like reviewer 1, reviewer 2. We always imagine that faculty might want to go to faculty first, and that would be just as useful a place to start the process for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Well, you're awesome, Josh.
Thanks so much, Josh. This was great. I'm going to order that pineapple pizza tonight, and I'll let you know how it goes.
There you go.
Please do. Awesome. This was great as well. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. You all too.
Game over.